There we go. I must, as people say, have the surprise look when I go live, because I'm always surprised when I go live. Let's see if this works. Because I've only done this how many live streams do I have overall? I wonder does it have a count? How many live streams have I done? So live, is there a total count of live stream? You'd think it'd be a number here somewhere. 577 live streams later. So there we go. 577 live streams later. I'm going to get this figured out. I'm going to get better at it. And those are any of the ones that I keep on here, and just the ones from YouTube. I've done live streams on other platforms, and I assume that's all of them. I may have purged a few, but either way, that's quite a few. Can we touch on cloud-hosted routers on a public IP? You're going to have to expand your use case and explain what you're trying to do, because I don't know what you're trying to accomplish. That's always my first question. I've been joking about this. Maybe I shouldn't joke and just actually get it done. I've talked about doing a video on how to ask questions, because a lot of times people, I know in their head they have the goal, but they're not always articulating their goal. And this mostly applies to my forums, where they're in the forums and I try to figure out what they're trying to accomplish. But they start with a question of, hey, I get this error message. And that's a common thing to see, not just in my forums, but in internet forums in general. And you'll get a lot of people telling you to RTFM, and I don't want to be that person. I want to say, first, here's the rules. And maybe I just got to organize these in my forums better. Please state what you're trying to do, because cloud routing is just routing. I don't know what you want in the cloud. Are you talking about using Pangolin to bring something? And I bring up Pangolin because we're working on doing a video on it eventually, but that is a fun product, kind of like your own self-hosted Cloudflare tunnel, where you can have a public IP and bring data in back to a local. I guess that's cloud routing. So it starts with a goal more than anything else. You still remember the first Vlog Thursdays? Yeah, it's been a minute. You've watched every live stream since the beginning. Wow. If I went back to beginning live streams, they're undoubtedly cringe. So hopefully, if you don't cringe at your old stuff, you're probably not getting better. See, if I sort by date, I have a live stream, so going all the way back to mostly December of 2016. I have one, but most of them there's a couple scattered ones, but most of them are from 2017 and beyond. That's because that's when I started actually working on stuff. You want to learn about EAP, TLS, MPS for wireless communications? I don't think I have plans anytime soon to do a video on that. I think for the extra complexity, it's not always worth it. It's used in the enterprise space. I get that, but I don't know. I really feel like we're moving towards, at least the modern security architecture is moving towards a nice zero trust system. So they don't care as much about how you're getting on the Wi-Fi network. It's all about, is this device allowed to access the resources? And that's being determined on a device level basis. Question tips 101. Yes. I have sites with WireGuard behind NAT at times, no public IP either. So I wish to do MikroTik cloud-hosted routers with a public IP. I have no idea, as I've never done a MikroTik cloud-hosted router. I don't even really care much for MikroTik routers. They just seem, and there's a lot of debate, because I say this, half the audience agrees, another half tells me I'm wrong. I don't think they're well documented on how to get them set up. So I'm not a big fan of their routing equipment. It seems to be a little bit confusing to use. But then there are always people just mashing a keyboard. But Tom, I love MikroTik. I run my entire wireless ISP with it. I have 10 MikroTik experts working for me. Great. One of them, I remember sometime someone told me that they had a massive amount of internal documentation. That's how they were solving all their MikroTik problems. I'm like, well, if you have internal private documentation to solve MikroTik problems, I don't know how to, if you're not making that information public, you're not helping the public with it. And MikroTik's got a lot of documentation. I plan to do like a video on getting started with MikroTik, but the more I've used them, the less I like them. I don't know. It's not bad. It's just it's more steps compared to it. It feels very Cisco like the old Cisco CLI. Not that that's bad. And there's people who grew up with it, so to speak, in the tech world that are very fast at Cisco and they like doing everything from the command line. That's great for them. It doesn't necessarily give warm, fuzzy welcomes to newcomers to networking. It's like it's the same thing where I debate of how much command line videos I should do on stuff. I've done some in the past on Linux. Maybe I should do some more. And yeah, I don't know. AI does help with MikroTik until AI helps right up until it starts making up commands and then commands don't exist. I like that there's people out there that care about IPv6. I'm just a realistic person who works in the realistic world where IPv6 is kind of reached a plateau, and that plateau was a few years ago. There's not a strong business use case for it. And I'm sorry, I love all the Homelab people, and but I always deal with two things: the way the world is and the way I want it to be. I would like to see mass IPv6 adoption, but I'm also realistic in saying no amount of Homelabbing or talking about it makes it happen. People have blamed me for being part of the problem for being down on IPv6. I'm like, no. Until there's a business use case for IPv6, until there's businesses going, this makes me more efficient. This makes it better for me and solves my problems for me. Until that happens, no amount of talking about IPv6 makes it more adopted. It makes it more adopted maybe in the Homelab, and you can try to make the argument the Homelab is that adoption for the business, and in many ways it is, but I don't think that's one of them. So yeah. It's neat. I don't tell people not to learn IPv6, but IPv6 is not a big part of my day. Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm probably going to do is cover Switch OS with MikroTik, which one of the annoying things about Switch OS, lack of SSH and a lack of HTTPS. Like it's all managed over just HTTP, which I think is weird. Why didn't they at least put SSL on it? But whatever. And you can't say it's because the device isn't capable of it, because the device, if you switch it to Router OS, gets HTTPS and a million other features. But once you start using Router OS, it's just a lot to get into. And now MikroTik has videos on it. And I think what I realized is people are asking me to do a video because they go, Tom, there's hours and hours of video of how to set this MikroTik up. Yep. Can't you make a 5-minute video that saves me watching 2 hours of MikroTik videos? Nope. That's where the problem is. People are assuming it should be as easy as other companies, but it's not. Besides MikroTik, who's a good provider of a cheap virtual? Well, MikroTik's not even a provider of virtual private servers, so that I know of, unless MikroTik got into the hosting business. I'm partial to Linode because I've been using it for a while, but DigitalOcean is good, and someone will probably throw out Vultr, VULTR, I think is how they spell it. So Linode, Vultr, of course, there's the big companies, Azure and AWS, Google, all offer VPS. Any good open source alternatives to Uptime Kuma? I've been waiting on the 2.0 version with MySQL support. Currently, Uptime Kuma falls apart with hundreds of IPs and websites. I'm glad you asked that question because I was playing with some tools out there, and I don't know that this is a drop-in replacement for Uptime Kuma. I just started playing with it. But let's start sharing a screen here. Where is this one? Hold on. Too many things open. There we go. I've been playing with NetAlert X, and I'll talk about it more in a moment, but it's pretty cool, and it is database driven. It's similar, I guess, because it does monitoring, but it does discovery. And I think it's got some tools where you can monitor some external things. It's not the same as Uptime Kuma. It doesn't seem to have all the same support as Uptime Kuma. So yeah, I don't know an easy Uptime Kuma. I don't have hundreds of things I monitor either, though. So I like Uptime Kuma, but I'm not to the point where I have so many things to monitor that it breaks Uptime Kuma. Well, it's not that they don't use it. It's that the businesses at the edge don't really have the reason to adopt it. I know the ISP6 infrastructure, but it's also very broken. I think that's the part a lot of people don't realize is how broken IPv6 is in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to threat surface. I pointed this out a few times. One of the challenges you run into with um, rate limiting is people can get entire blocks. And by the way, I learned this when we were doing some hacking with some friends, and we realized we could get around all the rate limits by getting a giant block of IPv6. As a matter of fact, the tooling we used supported this. It would try all these different, it'd take one username and have all the passwords. Let's say we have 200 versions of the password. We could spread that across 200 IPv6 addresses and brute force our way in if we had 200 guesses. Now, you're rate limited. I think with Microsoft, you can do 2 or 3 guesses per IP. So you can, there was tuning in the tool that allowed us to spread the brute forcing across IPv6. So it's actually kind of a mess. It really is, like, it defeats some of the blocking for things like that. The fact that LLMs make things up. Yeah. So this is a great article. If anyone wants to take the time to read it, you've probably seen Alan Jude before on my channel, or you follow him on 2.5 Admins. But here, let's just share it with the crowd here. Why you can't trust AI to tune ZFS. Let's just say it made up and was just wrong about things it would tell people to do and break things. Still using UniFi routing at home? Yes, the issues have crept up since the video. Or have any issues cropped up? No, it still works fine. I'm on the latest version. I haven't had any problems at all. The one thing, and there's someone in the forums, if I can find this particular post. See, someone had brought this up, and I don't know that it's not a struggle for me, but it's what I tell one of the things I tell people that I don't have a solution for. If you happen to be running UniFi and you need interoperability, here's the post. So we'll bring this post up real quick. If you need interoperability, someone's asking, like, hey, I want multiple UniFi only allows one OpenVPN server, and if you wanted a bunch of them, doesn't support it. You only can have one OpenVPN server. And the same thing, there was another article in here that someone had asked, well, their IPsec is missing these features for interoperability. If you want to connect it to something non-UniFi, it needs to have this setting. Yeah, it's missing that. So UniFi definitely for VPN will have some interoperability problems. If this is why I tell people, it's like, I can't tell you what to use. I tell people, like, what's your use case? That's it. When I do a lot of consulting, and this is a common question, which firewall should I use? I don't know. What is your use case? Explain your parameters. And that is where things break down. It's the same thing with, like, the NAS question. It's come up a lot. Well, tell me which NAS to use, Tom. I need to understand your use case. Well, can't you just tell me which one to use? No, until I understand the use case, I don't. So if you need interoperability with VPNs, oh yeah, UniFi's got some failings there. So if that's one of your requirements, that's definitely a shortcoming that UniFi has. Greetings, Cody. Yeah, you tried router rusting your MikroTik. It was such a headache for no real benefit in your lab. Went back to SwitchOS and left routing to a router. That's how I feel about it after playing with it. So yes. Happy Sunday to you too. You're running Proxmox, TrueNAS, and a few Ubuntu servers virtualized. Yep. Fun stuff. Most VMs will have some public services that need domain routing set up with LXC as a reverse proxy outside of VMs. I like Nginx Proxy Manager, but there are people, if you want to integrate your workflow better, I believe Traffic and Caddy both support this. You can set it up so Traffic and Caddy will, like, as you build your Docker configs, you can add pieces of your Docker config to grab and build the reverse proxy for other services. I don't go that far. It's cool if you want to build a full pipeline for it. It's just more stuff to set up. It's great once it's set up. It's just a little heavier work in the beginning. Thanks for sharing the article on not trusting ALMs. They harvest, yes, they harvest data, but don't sanitize it properly, verify it's authentic or factual content, understanding subjective content. Oh yeah, I know. They just don't have the same level of human intuition. And everyone's telling me all Sam Altman needs to do is burn another $5 billion. By the way, he's burning $5 billion a year to try and solve a problem that I'm going to say after each year of burning that much money, at some point, someone's got to go, we could have solved a few of the world's problems this way, but we still have a hallucinating AI, and we've now spent $5 billion last year alone. $5 billion. And we still have a broken AI. Have you ever done a video about opening up your Proxmox server in Homelab? That seems like an absolutely terrible idea. I would probably more likely to do a video of why you should never open up your virtualization stack to the open world. If I were to do a video, it certainly wouldn't be how to open up your Proxmox to the world. That just seems like you're asking for a disaster. Back to what I host. We can talk about that though. So I mentioned this. This is a pretty cool tool. I'm just playing around with it. I may do a video on it, but NetAlert X is pretty cool for doing device discovery. I know people were looking for like easier ways to do it, and this one's not bad. It's a simple tool. It doesn't take too much to configure, and once you get it set up, it's kind of dead easy. It just runs a scan and finds devices and lets you know the status of those devices and maybe how long those devices are up or down, when they were first and last seen, details about them. Pretty cool. This is available on Docker, and it's a GitHub project. It's fully open source, of course. Whoops. I start typing NetAlert X, it auto-completes alert. Trying to find the Docker. I am having a hard time typing for no particular reason. There we go. NetAlertX.com. But this is I believe this, make sure it's their site. Yep. It can be integrated into Home Assistant. Now, I don't know why, but I do know that the visual they show here, once I started adding a lot of devices, that broke. And I'm sure it's probably because I haven't read the manual. So FYI, I have it running. That part was easy. Making this visual, once I added several VLANs to it, I don't know if it exceeds the number. It just sits there. It doesn't work anymore for the visual. The visual's novel and not particularly like super useful to me, but I thought it was neat that it had it. And I say had it. It had it until I added a lot of devices. I don't know what the limitation is there exactly. But this is another, I'll address this in a very broad way. Hey, Tom, have you checked out insert name of product? Does that product at least project, depending on if it's commercial project or open source project or however you want to phrase it. But the challenge I always have is, does it at least have the same features as the one I have? Why would I use something with less features? There's one of the first questions I always ask. And this is where Harvester falls in. Because a lot of people are asking about Harvester lately, because a few YouTubers, I think, there's another one out there. A few YouTubers got sponsored to do it. So people keep asking me about it. And I'm like, but it's incomplete compared to the services I use. It has less features than Proxmox. It has less features than XCP-ng. So I'm probably not going to use it because there's not a compelling use case to use something that's lesser than what I have. That's my opinion on Proxmox. That's my opinion on Open Media Vault. That keeps coming up because people are mad at TrueNAS for abandoning FreeBSD. So they keep asking about Open Media Vault. And I'm like, they're not based on BSD either. So at least I don't think they are. What is Open Media Vault? Open Media Vault. So next generation NAS based on Debian. Yeah. So a lot of people have been asking about it, but yeah, if it doesn't have at least as many features as what I'm using, then it's not likely I will. Um, uh, Not likely, unless it's got to have some enhanced feature for me to really want to take a look at it, compared to what I'm using. And like NetAlert X, why am I looking at that at all? Because I've talked about, and they've been a sponsor of the channel, Domots. So Domots has a free version. Domots is a good tool. It's a great commercial tool. NetAlert X is not as full featured as Domots, but is open source and free, and that makes a lot of Homelab people happy. So they don't have to ever think about paying licenses for things, or being tied to a commercial company that's holding on to their data. NetAlert X doesn't have a place to put your data. You have to make the place to put your data. Therefore, you are in control of your data. Do you have publicly available stuff on your lab? What precautions do you take? Separate VLAN? Nothing actually on my lab. Well, no, my Synology NVR, so I can view it externally and morbid curiosity of what hits it all the time. My Synology NVR is publicly exposed. That's it. I don't have anything else I want publicly exposed. I just don't have a reason to. It's too hard to try and host my forums there because they're too busy. I don't want my forums because I get so much traffic on my forums that I wouldn't want to try to host it at home. My website, I probably could because it gets less traffic, but I don't want to risk, because I don't have a generator here, a 2-day power outage, meaning 2 days to no website. So that's why I don't bother hosting that at home. Opening a server on your Proxmox is simply port forwarding. There's not anything special. It doesn't matter if it runs on Proxmox, bare metal, or some other hypervisor. Opening a port's opening a port. When you reboot TrueNAS updates, do you automate restarting all the Docker services that rely on it for storage? They automatically start. I don't have to do anything. Tip for Homelabs is the IT Tools Docker container. Yeah, let's talk about a few of the things I'm hosting. Because look, I'm glad you brought that up. Because what do we have here? Let's look at all these things. Hey, look, it's IT Tools. I said to figure out what the icon was. IT Tools, great. And I will make this a list later because I'm going to do what I'm hosting list. But IT Tools is a fun collection of IT tools, exactly like its name sounds. This is free. You can look it up. But it's in Docker. I have that on my self-hosted list. But let's run down a list of things Tom is self-hosting. I mean, answer these last couple of questions. Are there any in here? What do you do for documentation? Ooh, I mostly put all my notes in Logseq right now, and I draw diagrams. Recommendation for a decent price managed switch for replacing a power connect. Honestly, UniFi is pretty reasonably priced. I'm not going to lie. Oh, people don't know what Homer is. Good news. If you don't know what Homer is, HOMARR, it is a self-hosted dashboard that I think Matt did the video on it. Yep. So if you're looking for a walkthrough on setting up Homer, you are in luck because we've already done the video. So there's a whole tutorial on how to set up Homer. Homer's great for adding things on here. You can find a video for, here's the thing. We don't even host the stuff anymore. Since the merger, CNWR doesn't really self-host things like Lawrence Systems did. So right now I still have Invoice Ninja for Lawrence Systems, but CNWR, the IT company, they don't do the self-hosting. So that's not an interesting anymore. I have an older video for what we used to self-host. I don't really self-host the business stuff anymore. I think the HL4 is a great storage server. Just setting up Homer. in the last day or so, struggling to get the UniFi integration to connect. I'm not using any of the integrations. Maybe at some point I will. As of right now, I am not. Also, love the icon. I'm assuming that's the Unreal icon. Back to what is Tom self-hosting. Let's run through the apps in here real quick. We have Fresh RSS. I love Fresh RSS. This is how I get the news. I do not like the news being something I have to search for or fed to me via an algorithm. So I have my RSS, which I'm going to make a new one because I did change this. So within the next week or so, I'll make a new export of my feeds. But these are all my news sites I have, and this is how I pull things into my RSS. Fresh RSS is amazing. 13-foot ladder. Many of you have heard of 12-foot ladder. This is a 13-foot ladder because 12-foot ladder doesn't always work. Let's just say some websites have a bit too much Java on them. And this is a way I can view a website that might have too much Java on it. And if you have too much Java on it, well, it's a less pleasant experience. And instead of having constantly, I mean, there's browser plugins that do this as well. I just have 13footladder.lawrencesystems.com. And by the way, none of these are public facing. So even though I have my domain able to be used in that way, I've talked about this, and we'll get down here at the bottom to Nginx Proxy Manager. That's how I handle all this. Chasm. I love Chasm. Chasm is a really great tool for creating disposable VMs. I've done a whole video on Chasm. It's a disposable workspace container. Like I said, I've talked about it a few times on the channel. It's just one of my longtime great things to use for getting or checking strange things. Open Web UI. Man, this is the way you with Open Web UI. It is a wonderful way. Yep, it's awake. Me asking, is it donut time yet? And other fun things with it. So the self-hosted AI things, I've talked about Homelab. Websites with JavaScript. Yeah. I see other people like Unreal. I mentioned this before about doing games and stuff. If I don't know much about setting up the old school Unreal, but part of me wants to do that and figure out, maybe I don't know. I email homelab@lawrencesystems.com and put Unreal in the subject line. And I would like to figure out a way to do that. But anyways, Open Web UI is a web front end for self-hosting your Homelab. And I have a handful of different models in here. And this is how I manage them all. I think this is a great tool for doing it. It gives you a great interface. It supports RAG and all kinds of other features. Q BitTorrent, because we have to seed those ISOs. That's a great one to self-host. Jellyfin. A lot of you kept saying, Tom, I can't believe you're on Emby. Why not use Jellyfin? Yes, Jellyfin. I finally moved to it. Surveillance Station. I'm still using it. I like Surveillance Station. It's been extremely dependable. We have a lot of clients using it, but I won't lie, compared to UniFi, it's just not the same. So I will probably be switching over to UniFi. I have a lot of UniFi cameras, so I have to swap all my cameras to really get the full UniFi experience. So I don't know what to do with all my old cameras. This is something I'll ask the internal staff if they want them. If not, maybe I'll give some of my Amcrest cameras away. I don't know. I'll have to figure that one out. Home Assistant, that goes without saying. I think most Homelab people are running Home Assistant. Home Assistant is just solid. It's probably what a huge number of people use. On your Homelab, you built a 24 CPU for container and game server hosting. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Eggs for each game. Is it Pterodactyl? Pterodactyl, I think. What software stack? I don't host any game servers right now. So once again, if you know I'm looking for more games to play. Right now I've been playing, is it Ghost of Tushido, the samurai game. I'm loving it. I got it on sale and I'm actually got some hours into it and I'm pretty happy with it. But email homelab@lawrencesystems.com if you want to talk about games. I talk to new grads. I'm curious which of these self-hosted apps you think would be good for a portfolio. Not many on my list, but in general, there's a lot. It really depends on where they're going. If you're going to be a network engineer, hey, having some tools that lean yourself into knowledge of network engineering is awesome. If you're going to be a virtualization specialist, having some knowledge about virtualization, which I run a lot of my stuff on XCP-ng, on XCP-ng has been great. So that's a good thing. When I'm looking at someone's resume, it's not because I'm bored. I'm looking at it because I'm hiring someone and I'm hiring them for a specific task. So I'm looking for some knowledge. It can be adjacent knowledge, like, hey, VMware, so you can probably figure out how other virtualization systems work. And if I see people's experience with virtualization systems, awesome. So as a sysadmin, it's more about having broad knowledge if you're hiring for a general position, but if you're hiring specific, it's whatever they're going into. Now, one other thing on here that I really like, if you haven't used MeTube, I have this hosted on my TrueNAS directly because that has storage on it, but I usually purge things out of here. If let's just say you have a video or a playlist and you'd like to grab that, this is kind of a web front end for YouTube downloader. But it seems to be pretty well maintained. It's dead simple. It doesn't have a username or password on it. It just is drop-in playlist here. It shows you what things are in the queue, and once they're completed, you can download them here. It works great for pulling videos out of Reddit. And I think that's one of the, if I get it, I hate the way companies have gone out of their way to make it harder for you to get something out of their platform. Like, cool, someone shared a video on this platform, and Reddit's an example, and let's make it difficult to get the video out. Or they always want to keep you stuck there. But MeTube is just simple and gets the job done. Sync thing I just did a talking about. So sync thing is definitely one of my favorite go-to things for synchronizing and doing real-time backups. We just talked about IT tools. This is just a long list of different tools when you need to do things like create some type of weird statistics or even a quick emoji picker. So I like having all this at my fingertips because you get used to using it. Or you need to create a bcrypt, or you need an HMAC generator. I always want to measure, how well. I'm just going to copy and paste. I'm having a hard time typing. So there we go. Password strength analyzer. The more we add this, the more difficult it is to crack this password. Cool. I did this. It's all self-hosted. It's plus got search here for different things. Roman numeral converter, because, you never needed this until you do. Then you're like, someone will be like, oh, nice. Silly stuff, but hey, I like that it's self-hosted. Now, another one on here is CyberChef. CyberChef, if you worked in the hacking at all and had to do any reverse engineering for something, CyberChef is a great tool. There's plenty of sites that host it. It's not like it's hard to host. It's really, really lightweight. But to base64, from base64, to hex from hex, to hex dump from hex dump, URL decode, regular expressions, etc. Lots of different formats, and these recipes are stackable. So you can bring things from one to another and input and output them. So it's really nice because we're putting to base64 and putting it out of base64. So let's go ahead, and if we remove it, it's base64 to, but then we want to go from. So now we're doing a conversion of it. But you get the idea. You can input things and output them and then reverse them really easily. Just having this right here, super nice. Roman numeral converter is good for knowing what Super Bowl it is. Yes. Yeah, so many people are used to just going to the website for CyberChef, but you can self-host it. Then you're not sending data externally, because maybe you have data in there, like you're trying to parse some email stuff, and you're like, maybe this website shouldn't have all that email data I'm just putting in here. Then we have NetAlertX. NetAlertX, I'm still getting the hang of it. I only recently set it up, like this morning. So, well, no, I loaded it a while ago and said, I'm going to pull this Docker image. And then I never configured it. And I was like, I should configure this thing. So I don't remember when I first set it up, but it just goes through and scans and finds your devices and gives you uptime and tells you what they're doing, tells you if they're up or down. You can set alerts on devices. You can look at the sessions, when it was last seen, when it was first seen. You can scan these devices. Matter of fact, let's go to one of the devices that needs a scan. Graylog. Let's scan Graylog and let's do a fast scan. What else is open on this thing? Let's do a default scan. Cool. We found a few more things open. But it's just a handy little lookup for stuff. Do a full detail. This is an Nmap scan, by the way. It's down here. I like it, though. And you can then set like, hey, alert on events. Alert me if this particular one is down. So and in some ways, granted, it's just ARP alerts here. I don't think it has, at least, it's not a full replacement at all for Uptime Kuma. But it's pretty cool. You can also add more context and labels to it, custom properties. I like it for just the basic device discovery. Now, one of the things about their site, it shows, and this was working until I added a bunch of networks. When I click on the networks, this doesn't work anymore. I don't know if it's because I need to do something, but once I scanned a bunch of subnets, this broke. When I had one subnet, this worked. I'm sure it's because I haven't read the documentation. So someone can feel free to email me what the setting I should change is. So do you self-host notes and documentation? I'm trying to. Yeah, I use I'll share the tool. I don't know if I'm going to switch, but I'm so used to using it. It just works. I really like LogSeek. It's an application I have loaded. There's a way to use it in a web interface, but I don't. I use it as a local application. I just think it's better as a local app. And I use SyncThing to sync it between everything. This is where all of my notes are for all things I'm doing. And I don't just mean my Homelab, but I mean, this is my personal knowledge assistant. If there's a question someone has, hey, Tom, how did the meeting go with so-and-so on Monday? I will have all of my notes for that meeting in there. I will have all the Homelab notes. So someone say, but Tom, what is that command you need to use in XCP-ng to fix a broken RAID drive? Oh, by the way, that's in my notes, because if it's something that I've done before, that is definitely like a way to all encompass, like add that knowledge base in there. And I like it because it's just dead simple for doing things. I think Joplin's cool too. And this is what I go back and forth. The Joplin, I think, is a pretty good tool. I had some bugs I kept running into at Joplin, but I liked Joplin quite a bit. I'm hoping maybe I'll come back to it. I have Joplin loaded as well. I just really like the simplicity of the text-based backend that's in LogSeek, but LogSeek's also working on a database version. And if Joplin has some of those problems solved and I need to test it again, I will move them and hopefully import all of my data back into Joplin. I had everything in Joplin before. The bugs I ran into at Joplin were this formatting bugs. I just didn't like the way it formatted some of the data. I didn't like the fact that it double spaced a lot of the lines. And that's just like a known, yeah, it does that. There was like a little nuances I didn't care for that LogSeek doesn't seem to have a problem. The other thing about LogSeek is the fact that it's a journal. And the journaling in LogSeek is something I like a lot. And Joplin, I don't think has a journal. It's all just text files. So it's easily exported. It's all markdown. And that's one of the reasons I like it. The fact that LogSeek is trying to make a database backend almost bothers me because I like the fact that it's just markdown files. All my Joplin stuff, Joplin, I believe, has the ability to import export in markdown, but I have to play with it again. I'm trying to remember all the reasons. If I start using Joplin again, I'll see if they fix the reasons I don't like them, because I've been using LogSeek for almost 2 years now, and I haven't looked at Joplin in close to 2 years. a more free version of NTOP NG. Yeah, I'm not sure on the question of that. I don't use Zabbix anymore. I just didn't need it. I don't have enough stuff I monitor with it that it was worth the trouble of running. Matt is working on a video for Pangolin. I haven't used it myself, but Matt's been using it. Going down the list, though, obviously Zen Orchestra, those are there. I have my TrueNAS servers, so those are set up here. I just put links to them. Some of the services I run, and one of the ones I'm working on right now, this is something well, there's two things. I will probably move to image on my TrueNAS. That is a goal. I also would really like, and I loaded it, but I have not done any configuring. And this is Audio Bookshelf. I want to self-host all my podcasts. I use Pocket Casts. I've been using it for years, but I want to be able to do some self-hosting on my podcast. So yeah, hopefully this is a good tool for that. I think it has an app that goes with it, because I need something that has an app on my phone. I listen to almost all my podcasts via my phone, and I'm just trying to, if I can, move to a self-hosted service. What is Guacamole? You're in luck. I did a whole video about Apache Guacamole. The too long, you don't feel like watching it, is Apache Guacamole allows you to get RDP access, SSH access, also supports VNC and a few others, access to your servers. So if I wanted to log into my Docker lab, actually, I think that's probably turned off right now. But Apache Guacamole lets me log into different servers. Disconnect. I think this one's up. Yep, this one's up. The other server's just off. But now I'm into this Windows server. It's just a really handy tool for remote access. Audio Bookshelf is great. I have not used it for podcasts. One pitfall I noticed is that for Audible, the Audible API sometimes sends different chapter info depending on if Widevine DRM is used or not, and it violates Widevine violations. Yeah, I would, well, let's just say we'll convert anything. I mostly buy my books elsewhere. I get them, I'm trying to remember which one that Cory Doctorow uses to publish his books, but, well, there's two of them. I avoid using Amazon books. And Downpour is one of the ones I use. And my reasoning for this is Downpour lets me download things that are DRM free. There's the other one, and the name eludes me right now. When Cory Doctorow has run his publishing stuff, he's done it with one of the other ones that also gives you, he only will support platforms that are DRM free. So I buy a lot of my books DRM free. I don't get them from Audible. Therefore, the DRM part's not really an issue for me. Getting a Homelab, what do you recommend for a rack mount Ethernet switch? And someone can be mad about this today. Why not? I say UniFi a lot because they're one of the easiest ones to get started with in a Homelab. Then there's always someone who will say, but Tom, there's also insert their favorite networking gear, because I just don't like TP-Link that much. I just don't feel that they're on top of security. Sorry, TP-Link, but I've done a review and I'm not that keen on TP-Link. I will be right back, though. I really need some water. I realized I only had half a glass when I started. By the way, when I'm talking a lot, I end up going through a lot of water as well. So let me run upstairs and get some water, because I didn't have the foresight to apparently bring water down. So I will be right back. There we go. I don't know about hidden keyloggers and TP-Link, but definitely not great security. If you're hardcore and have lots of different machines, you want to create a mesh network with Tailscale, Headscale is one to self-host, or just go with Netbird. Instead of trying to rig Tailscale, if you will, with Headscale, which is a third-party tool that supports it, Netbird is, someone told me Net Headscale has a web interface now. It's been a couple of years since I looked at it, but check out Netbird. It's all personally on what network equipment to use. I personally use UniFi at home, have been for years. Easy to config, manage, or monitor. UniFi can get pricey, but worth it. I don't even think UniFi is that crazy pricey. It's not like MeekerTick is 1/4 of the price of UniFi. For the most part, I mean, yeah, some of the MeekerTick stuff is less, but not like, that's the thing. It's the same thing with TP-Link. It's not like, oh man, this UniFi switch is $200 and a TP-Link one is $50. That's not the price difference. At Lawrence Systems, is it better to install TrueNAS on a 2x SSD RAID during installation? Choose to install 2SD. Let TrueNAS manage the RAID. I would say yes. Let TrueNAS manage the RAID. I might look at Calibre. I have a ton of ebooks. In the past, I read more ebooks. I do more audiobooks now. But I've thought I at one time had Calibre all set up, and now I need to probably set it up again. I'm trying to find, and there's plenty of them out there now, and this is what's kind of cool. There's some nice ebook readers, and I would like to just self-host, and maybe I'll sit and read my ebooks that way. Self-hosted Slack solutions. I'm going to say the closest I've seen to a Slack replacement is probably Rocket Chat, that you can self-host. They're actually a business, so you have the ability to self-host it or pay them to host it for you. I think this is actually kind of cool. So yeah, this is a pretty advanced platform out there. As far as they know, they still have. Is it a Docker deploy? There we go. Yep. Docker, Kubernetes, snaps, cloud deployment. So you can host it yourself with Docker. They even have like AWS guides. They target, and this is what I actually like. They're targeting a business use case because that will create funding and make the project go. But they have a self-hosted version. Glad to catch you live. Say thank you for the Prox videos. It's helpful setting up for the first time. Homelab, awesome. I don't know if you followed me for Proxmox videos, but I've talked about it probably. I mostly talk about XCP-NG. It's not that bad. You just got to engage with the right people. I mean, we've done 300 access point installs. We've done entire school districts. So that's absolutely something we've done them before. It does look like Slack, and I think that's kind of the point, because to me, Slack looks like IRC for anyone who's used IRC in the past. You're like, wait a minute, Slack is kind of like IRC that can post some animations and GIFs and graphics. Yeah, NetBird's great. Have or will you set up an XCP ExoStore HDAC cluster? It's not on my to-do list right now. People get overly excited about hyperconverged. I deal with a lot of performance systems, and it's hard to build. It's harder to build a hyperconverged performance system because if you have a high demand on IO, that IO has to be synced between your hyperconverged infrastructure. This is one of the reasons when we're doing design planning with people, they start telling me their needs. I'm like, well, hyperconverged is great. Here, just buy this super fast server. They're like, whoa, 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 that's out of our budget. I'm like, well, you want perfect synchronization between all of them with database commits at this level and this many IOPS. It's not that you can't do it. It's your budget that's limiting. We can do all kinds of things, but your budget appears to have a ceiling on it. It's kind of a hammering effect. This is the same problem Ceph has, and we've talked a lot about it at 45 Drives. People who actually know a lot about Ceph will tell you, can you make Ceph perform? Absolutely. What's your budget? Because synchronizing writes, you got to think about how fast a drive is. Let's say something like NVMe drives. They are really fast. How do I get that same fast synchronization to the level of erasure coding with a hyperconverged Ceph cluster? Or Ceph cluster or hyperconverged in VMs. Well, that's a challenge. And you are limited at all times by your slowest component. And if that slowest component is the PCI bus and network interconnect that is putting things over TCP/IP between all the servers to reach a level of erasure coding, well, yeah, now you have a problem. Jitsi and lots of dev servers. Yeah. Is CCNA still worth it? There's a ton of Cisco out there. I don't work in the enterprise field specifically where there's a ton of Cisco. I have friends that do, so they find it valuable to have all the Cisco knowledge. And Cisco is still a pretty big name in the networking space. So yes, it's probably worth it to have a CCNA. One of the things that's nice about a CCNA, at least if someone passes it, they probably have some fundamental understanding of networking that you can carry on to apply elsewhere. That's one of the things that I think is an important aspect is if you pass some of these tests, at least you have enough knowledge that can be repurposed elsewhere. So as an employer, I don't mind at all when people have certs. It's the same reason. One of my friends, he's a hiring manager for a really big engineering company. And I remember having a great conversation it was when I was younger and I just didn't think about these things. They really wanted people to have a college degree, even if it was outside of what they were applying for. That became like a really important problem for them. And I said, why? And he go, we just want someone who can write complete sentences. He goes, we have some engineers that are brilliant. He goes, but their ability to articulate information to us is really challenging. And he's like, their grammar is poor. He goes, they might be good scientists. He goes, but their ability to articulate data in a comprehensible way. He goes, I'll take someone who's at least passed 1 or 2 years of some type of English class, of being able to, he was more, not English, but more like a creative writings class. He says, it's not that they're not native English speakers. It's the fact that they are, and they aren't good communicators. Being a good communicator is really important. It's probably part of the reason I think I succeeded where others were definitely more knowledgeable than me about this stuff. I was able to articulate things to the management. I was able to help them see and justify why I needed a budget for my department when I worked in the corporate world. And because I was able to use whole sentences and not say, it sucks if you don't do this. I think that's part of how I got further in my career. I don't really know. What's your opinion about the future of pfSense CE because the current CE slows updates? They just released a new beta. They're just on a slow release cycle for it because, people ask me also, why haven't I done a lot of new pfSense videos? I'm like, I don't know what else to do. I kind of got bored with pfSense videos. It's not because I switched to UniFi or something, which people seem to think. There's not anything new. Even in these Plus editions. They haven't really added anything groundbreaking for me. I mean, people go, do an open VPN video, Tom. Oh, your last one's 2 years old. I'm like, well, the last one is exactly the same as I would do it today. I can't think of a better way to do it. So I don't like, I could take down the old one and re-upload the same video maybe. But there's not a lot of reason when there's not been any changes. The firewall rule video is still the firewall rule video. My port forwarding video on pfSense is still the same. That sounds like 4 years old. So they just don't, it's a firewall. And because they're not doing a lot of new features, not that they need to, because there's some features pfSense is not going to get into. They aren't going to get into the layer 7 features. They're not going to get into application management. So there's not anything else to talk about. Now, someone, and I think it was pointed out in the comments when I did the video about the flows in the new UniFi 9.1 with the OS update of 4212. That's a new feature, but you can also point out that pfSense has had that feature, and Tom did a video on it. Yes, I did. So that's why I haven't done any new videos on pfSense, because it's to do that same video on pfSense is not a new feature. That's the feature pfSense has had for a long time. Huge amounts of enterprise tech is being able to communicate with people around you. A disk failure, a straight mirror on SSD. I mean, yeah, if you have bad drives, sometimes you can get all kinds of, you get those, you get these command Q errors if you look in the logs. Sometimes you have to take the drive out. If the drive fails and it's removed from ZFS, there's less issue, but when it's not removed or it's giving a bunch of bus errors, you can really slow down things. Do you think UNAS will have active backup for Google in the future? I don't see that on the roadmap. A VXLAN video and broadcast domains over layer 3 VPN. I've kind of done a VXLAN video. I've talked about how VXLAN can be used in XCPNG, but I don't know that I'll really do a dedicated VXLAN video anytime soon. And anytime you need a broadcast domain over a layer 3 VPN, you're doing something wrong, or you're trying to support some really old legacy equipment in a weird way. It's very niche. Just-in-time network access. Try to explain to me what you're looking for there. I don't know. I'm not understanding the question. Are you talking like an IPAM solution that provisions an ID on an as-needed basis? This is the most underrated comment, but you are absolutely right. Having a boring firewall isn't necessarily a bad thing. Generally for businesses, that is exactly what we would love to have. Because if you're tasked with managing many companies, you know what you really want? A boring firewall that just does firewall. I don't need a Fortinet that breaks all day, that has another freaking, basically, we forgot to audit our code type of bug. That's what Fortinet's known for, not just bugs. Oh, no. Fortinet always has bugs that are easily found on the OWASP top 10 of why the hell are you doing it this way list. There's so many bugs in Fortinet. They're not like clever either. They're not like, wow, someone did some really advanced hack against Fortinet. Someone usually discovers, hey, look, another page I can get to without a proper login. Hey, look, cross-site scripting. Hey, look, we can bypass authentication here. That's the problems with things like Fortinet. They've tried to cram everything but the kitchen sink in there, and they've created a giant attack surface. Fortinet's getting rid of all their, what do they call that? The SSL VPN stuff. They're deprecating it. I'm like the reason they're getting rid of it is they just can't fix it, and no one wants to refactor the code. The only path forward is to throw that thing away. Like, there's no patch in it. pfSense 2.8 is in release candidate now. Just install system patches to get patched between major releases. This is correct. On PIA, I've got 2 different videos on this topic. I usually run Suricata. If you look up Suricata or Snort on my channel, I've covered both. It's not that effective. I've talked about that too. And this is I'm working on a video, and then maybe I'll publish it tomorrow. I got to finish my notes. It's what does your firewall actually do? And too many people think it does a lot more than it does. And I figured, hey, why not do a video clarifying that it doesn't do what you think it does? Oh, yeah. Watching people use LLMs to try to figure out how to talk to other people, definitely cringe. Video idea, Homelab, wire drop patch layout. I don't do as many wiring videos anymore. I should, but I don't have an infrastructure team anymore. That also went away with the merger. So since I don't have an infrastructure team and we just farm it out to other people, I have to like really coordinate with those other people, which is a lot more difficult. Especially when we're doing out of state jobs. So at some point, maybe I'll do some videos on cabling and wiring. But because we don't have an internal team anymore, I mean, I've done an absolute ton of it. I've coordinated a ton of big projects. I've got a lot of videos we've talked about, but we don't have an internal team anymore. So that's one of the reasons I don't do the videos anymore. Oh, GIT network access. I don't think there's really anything except for enterprise tools that support that. There's a company called, what are they called? This company. They're doing that type of service. I don't know any open source tools that do it. So, I mean, feel free. This company's got write-ups, and I think there's some video. They have videos on how they work. So it's one of those things. What makes a video popular is how can it help you solve a solution in a way that's accessible to you. Because someone asked why I don't do videos on like Juniper. And I'm like, well, is that an accessible solution? Does Juniper need an advertisement? I mean, if Juniper wants to sponsor a video and have me create a tutorial, I can consider it. But when people go, oh, look, you can buy this. The same reason I didn't do a video, I covered some Arista switches. I mentioned we used them. People are like, Tom, you didn't do an in-depth video. I'm like, oh, do you have a $5,000 budget for your license? So you can, is it called peer view? I can't remember. There's a viewing tool that like a visibility tool that with the Arista switches that costs like $5,000 a year in licensing. Do I review it? Like it doesn't, you're like, cool, but I can't afford it. I try to look at things that people can actually use. And I mean, it's not that there's not people using lots of Arista equipment. It works great. It's not a bad solution. It's not an affordable solution. Each one of those switches we bought for the client, they were 100 gig ones. So yes, they were high-end switches, but they were $27,000 a piece, each one. So doing a review of a $27,000 switch is novel, but not necessarily anything more than an advertisement for Arista at that point, which is fine, I guess, but it doesn't, I don't know, less interesting to me. As someone who was sold 40 net. The sad part of 40 is they have a lot of industry and some rethinking they are the best of the best. No, they have a reseller program. Reseller programs are a hell of a drug. And when you're making a bunch of commission money on license fees with their reseller program and margins on their product, you will keep selling a product far longer than you probably should. When people have deep trust in the money flow, not the product. You think Base UDM Pro will be able to adopt SSL inspection? I doubt it. And SSL inspection is a terrible idea. Firewall SSL inspection should go away. There's better ways to do that. Definitely not doing something wrong. VXLAN is a current fashion in application-centric infrastructure, but yes, not needing a home lab. I just like to play with everything out there. It's novel. I mean, I'm not saying there's not a use case. The folks over at the Enterprise Networking Podcast did a great session on VXLAN. Love your videos, information shared. Thanks. Have a drink on me. And thank you very much for a donation. It's greatly appreciated. What's your take on GIT network test? Do you think it's overkill? I think it's a novel approach. It's overkill. I don't know. I think there's better solutions out there because I mentioned that company Knock Knock. And while this is a cool thing, the problem really comes down to getting people to integrate and use this. Uh, they do integrations to put a client on your system. The moment you have to put a client on a system to get firewall access, I have the option to put other clients on the system. Let's say a VPN that does overlay and SASE. Overlay and SASE VPNs to me are a better solution than GIT network access. That to me seems like a better way to solve the problem. Hence, yes, it's not that it's overkill. I think there's already better ways to solve the problem. Knock Knock is a novel idea to do port knocking to validate. There's other people. HD Moore talked about this. If you're not familiar with HD Moore, infamous hacker, built Rumble, or Run Zero as it's called now, also built Metasploit framework. And he had a great idea. And this is something completely possible. You take something like CrowdStrike or insert name of your favorite tool that you use in the enterprise, and you say, hey, only allow devices to come from the public IP address that my clients show running this. So you create an allow list of public IPs based on your endpoints and pull that database list and create a firewall rule for it. You can actually do that. Very few people take the trouble to do it, but you can also just say, use an overlay VPN like Netbird and make the problem go away. Now you don't need GIT access, and you're talking about a simpler system. And by the way, once you introduce something like that, an overlay VPN with a SASE that you can say, hey, I want to be able to validate the settings on this particular device that match prior to them coming in, and then you create a central point of your rules and you provision that user's logins. I don't know, maybe I should do a video about like modern zero trust security architecture and why it's not needed for that. So what do you think of Threat Locker? I think Threat Locker is great in theory, hard to do in real world, and depends on your use case. Hard to do if you have custom applications. I don't know anyone I've talked to who've used it over time that just doesn't remove it from certain endpoints when they have a bunch of custom applications. If you're running a law office and half of your stuff's in the web and the other half just is in Word documents, I don't think you'd have a problem running Threat Locker. But application allow listing is really hard with accounting firms, for example. You like the Netbird videos I've done as well? Awesome. Do you think Graylog as an app on SureNAS would be a good idea? It's probably not a terrible idea to run it on SureNAS. I prefer to run it on its own system and then mount SureNAS, but it should work on SureNAS. Makes sense because your data is where all that is. I haven't looked. Is it even a built-in app? That would be interesting. Raspberry Pi music server, trying to get into the networking in order to create a resume piece for a network career, getting CCNA. There's a few of them out there that can do Raspberry Pi music servers. I have not tested many of them. That's something I'm slowly getting into. As I mentioned just a little bit ago, somewhere, I've lost the tab. This one. There is audio bookshelf. This is more for audiobooks and podcasts. But if you look, there's a few different apps you can run like on a Raspberry Pi to be able to self-host music. I know my friend's using one. I can't remember which one he's using. He had these cool Raspberry Pis set up in his wood shop. He's a hacker / Linux dev / when he turns off the computers, he likes listening to music in his barn, and he does woodworking, and he's got a bunch of Raspberry Pi servers. It's kind of cool that play music. What do you think about the switch from Firefox to Brave as a default browser in some Linux distros? I don't know. I don't have much opinion. I don't use Brave, so I don't really have an opinion on it. Thoughts on TP-Link? I think TP-Link has a terrible history of security. So for the few dollars you save, do you want to deal with the bugginess and potential security issues that come with it? I'm an intern as DevOps. I want to learn how to write good documentation. Do you know where to start? Look through good, find what you consider, or there's probably some well-documented projects out there. I love the way Jeff Geerling documents things. I can throw him out there as kind of an example. If you look at his GitHub and you see him, or follow really popular GitHub developers and look at their documentation. And sometimes it might get you an idea of how to better structure it. Jeff Geerling has such a great workflow for things, and he puts it all on GitHub. It's actually really easy to follow, and I really like it. You'd enjoy the video of me overviewing zero trust architecture. Makes sense. And I would do it as a very generic, non-vendor specific type of talk. Do you know a price per terabyte calculator that factors energy use? No. Because there's some common per hard drive energy use you can do your own calculation for. Here's an important part nobody thinks about. What are your recommendations for moving a Homelab? Just got a condo, not looking forward to disassembling my 42U. There's no easy answer. It's no one thinks about it because there's no good answer on it. It's just hard. I had to move my lab out of my old office into my new office. It sucked. It's just taken apart. We've done a lot of, at least I'm experienced because we've done this for businesses a lot over the last 20 years. I've moved so many companies over the last 20 years, like tons of them. It's just make a project plan, make a punch list, start tearing things apart, putting new things in. UniFi controller on TrueNAS, a decent solution. Well, my problem, and I don't know, maybe it's Linux server. I don't know who maintains the Docker image for it. I run UniFi controller in a self-hosted environment with Debian because that's a good base OS. I don't know who manages the Docker. I don't do it in Docker, so I don't know. I don't know if the Docker is kept up to date. There is no official Docker from UniFi, so my answer, generally speaking, is no, don't run it in TrueNAS. The reason I don't like Obsidian is it's not open source. People keep telling me it's open source, and I say, show me. I've never seen the source code for it, and their website doesn't say it's open source. So I stay away from companies that could potentially push a change that locks all my data out. That's one of my problems. My notes are my notes. My data. I'm a big believer in what I like to call data sovereignty, which means I prefer all my data be in open source formats so I can move it between other open source applications if I would like to switch. Doing things in Markdown is always my favorite too. ASCII doc and Git is the best way to document. ASCII2 docs, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different documentation tools out there more than anything else. And what allows me to move between applications is the application matters less than you think when it comes to documentation. Documentation is less about applications. Me and John Hammond, of all people, probably 5 years ago, there's a video on my channel about doing IT documentation, and me and John Hammond did it together. So it was in the John Hammond early days, but you can find that on my channel. We talk about documentation and the importance of it. It's a huge factor. You should definitely it's a good thing to be asking because it's hard to find someone who can do good documentation. Too many things open. I left this open ever since we started the stream. It's never loading this page, the graphic page for the Netalert X. But where'd my pixel go? It says it's not online. Current status offline. It's because my phone's asleep. Actually, which phone is this? Yeah, Pixel Pro XL. Go to report. What's changed? Oh, came back online because I woke it up. Oh, it's on a different. I moved to a different network. That's why. When I woke up, my phone, I switch it between different networks. So that explains that. This is a fun tool already. What's the best way to reach out to you? Homelab at launchsystems.com. is a pretty easy way to reach out to me. If you head over to my website, if you're looking for a way to securely message me, all my contact information, even where to email, send things to me, is down here. So all the ways you can find Tom are down at the bottom of the web page here. That even includes my gaming stuff. I even have, yes, that's the Steam link there. I try to make myself reasonably accessible to get. By the way, if you send me an email and it's a bunch of tech support stuff, I will reply. And this is what many people have learned. This is my reply. That's a great question for the forums. There's a lot of people who said, they're not a lot, but a few people still send me emails and I'll ask the question like, which is the best switch to get? It's the most generic question. Which was the best switch? I don't know. That's a great question for the forums. You know, those are the questions like that. It's not that I don't reply to those. People want to reach out because they have a question. I don't mind. But if you're straight up asking for, or people who just send me their log files saying, I'm getting these error messages. That's interesting. That's a great response for the forums. I still like to reply a lot to people. So past documentation recommendations for ITAM, only asking is NetAlert UI reminds me of Snipe IT. One of the ones I'm going to do, is Netbox. So Netbox is one of them that I am definitely looking at doing. They have a self-hosted version in here, installation. Hold on, let me find it. Because you can install this via Docker. But this is a good solution for managing all that. Snipe IT is good as well. If you're just looking for asset management, Snipe IT is good. Greets in chat. Greetings, Charles. Send Lawrence Systems on your homework. He loves. Yeah, Obsidian is really just a local front end for notes. Yes. So ideally, I know you can get the notes out of it, is my understanding. I haven't used Obsidian, but just the fact that it's not open source. Yeah. Because I use Logseek, which is in many ways similar to Obsidian, but I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just telling you why I don't use it. I have lots of friends that like Obsidian, run with it. I don't know why they just don't open source it. I think they'd be more popular. At least that's my theory. Yeah. You thought I said NetBots. Yeah, NetBox. NetBox. They have a GitHub. It's a pretty popular project. It started out as how they were monitoring things at DigitalOcean and kind of turned into a big thing on its own because there's not another good solution out there. There is a fork of it. There's a debate, on the fork. Let me find the name of the fork. Someone knows it in their head, but I know I had it. Where was I? It's called like Notbot. It's more about automation. This is also open source, by the way. I'll throw a link in here. So I'm not running N8N at the moment, but I want to. I have a few friends doing it, and I think N8N is pretty cool. Eventually, I will probably look at something like N8N. but I'm not using it right now, so I can't really speak to it. So having used both Obsidian and Logseek, I can confirm they are pretty much the same from a user standpoint. Logseek is just blue, while Obsidian is purple. Fair enough. I mean, I remember at one point I looked at Obsidian briefly, and when I seen Logseek seem to do the same thing, I was like, cool. But I think I covered enough of this. Oh, a couple little things on here that you might find interesting. I mean, way too many tabs open. But if you haven't used Dazzle is dead simple and handy for looking at containers. If you take a look and it's just not much in here. Like this is me poking at the IT tools thing here. We can look at open speed tests as well, or CyberChef. But this gives you instant access to logs to all your Docker stuff. So Dazzle is great for that if you haven't used it. And the WUD server is also pretty cool. This just lets you know if there's an update for anything. It doesn't do anything. It just visualizes the updates. I can say watch now, and it lets me know if there's a new version of a container. It's just that simple. It's got some workflows you can add into it to actually do something. I prefer to manually update my Docker containers. Maybe I'm weird, but I will manually update my Docker containers on an as-needed basis. And this is just a great way if I want to look across all of them to see if there's a new version. It's called WUD. Let me pull up their GitHub page. What's up Docker? I remember it was what's up something. It's what's up Docker. So if anyone's interested in it, it's a pretty neat, simple tool. You can turn it into with flows and automations, but just in general for using it, really easy to do. Have you seen the workarounds yet for the branded sound? Oh, there's always been workarounds for them. I just don't like when there's workarounds because that's a pain. There's always been workarounds for a couple of years. Yeah, Watchtower's not bad. I was going to use Watchtower, but then WUD seems simpler for just letting me know because I didn't want them auto-updating. I wanted just to have a visual, so if there's an update, I will apply. I'm weird that I like to do these manually. Normally, I'm an automation guy on a lot of things, but with my self-hosted Docker stuff, none of it's publicly exposed. So if there's a security vulnerability, if there's an update for it, I'll patch it. And I have a process. I check daily for all these and make sure I'm following process. But yeah, I just like this because it tells me what needs to be done. You can set it up so it can notify me. I could have it set notices. It's got an option for like SMTP triggers or webhooks, which is cool. Maybe eventually I'll do that, but I'm fine with just letting me know what needs to be done. And that's it. But I mean, Watchtower's fine too. It's not a bad choice. I also have Portainer, and I imagine a lot of people are familiar with Portainer. I'll log into it anyways. I don't use Portainer much. I just keep it up to date. It's novel to me, but I don't really. It's good if I got to sort something out that I normally don't have to sort out. But yeah, Portainer. And I think the last thing I'll show is I got speed test. I like open speed test. I have this on my network when I got to do things like test Wi-Fi. So I know there's going to be, because it's virtualized, it's not going to get the full 10 gig, and I'm fine with that. But I tried Dockage, but I didn't like it as much. I don't know. Dockage is okay. I played around with it. I just mostly manage my containers from the command line. Matter of fact, that's one of the things, if you look at my Portainer, one of the reasons it has limited is because I don't build anything in Portainer. I build everything with compose files. Yeah. But it's just pretty much to look at things. And that's it. Well, I'm out of water, and I'm going to go outside because it's nice outside. So thank you all for joining Homelab at lawrencesystems.com, and plus all the other ways you can find me at lawrencesystems.com and reach out to me if you want to have a conversation. Loved having all of you here, and I just want to cut it off here. And yes, compose and GitOps. No, I just use Docker Compose. I don't have a full GitOps flow. I don't have that much stuff. I guess I'm just building things in a more simpler fashion, but I encourage people who want to go beyond what I'm doing to please go beyond what Tom's doing. I'm doing things in a very simple way, but simple gets complicated fast. But nonetheless, whatever way works for you is the right way. I'm not telling you my way is the right way. I'm just a simple person trying to build a simple home lab and host things. But thank you all for joining. Loved hearing from all of you. Loved all the interaction here. And I'll do a separate video with all my stuff listed so you can click on all the links for all my self-hosted things. I'll get that done soon. Thanks.